All right. Welcome, everyone. Today is Monday, March 17th, 2025, and this is a regular meeting of the City of Asbury Park Planning Board. Chairwoman Kurzak, can you please call this meeting to order?
This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Coaster and Asbury Park Press by publication of the annual meeting notice and posted on the Municipal Building Board and municipal website. All notices are on file with the Board Secretary. Official action may be taken on the following matters before the Board. This meeting is being recorded by APTV. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now take roll call. Councilwoman Clayton?
Here.
James Bonanno?
Here.
Jim Henry?
Here.
Jeremy Hoffman is absent this evening. Mayor Moore?
Here.
Jen Souter is absent this evening. Daniel Shinameo?
Here.
Bob Zuckerman?
Here.
Kathy McClellan? Vice Chair Goonan?
Here.
And Chairwoman Kurzak.
Here. All right, the first item that we have is the resolution of approval for Planning Board 2024-006.
That's first meeting in April.
We're going to move it to the first meeting in April.
Okay, so this is being moved to the first meeting of April?
Yep.
It is.
Okay. So that's on 4/7. Okay. All right, our first application is 527 Bangs Avenue.
Good evening, Andrew Karras, on behalf of the applicant. I do have
He
to
has to-
apologize to the
He has to
board.
carry.
I thought I had sent the notice to my paralegal to send out, apparently I did not. That is on me, I apologize, so we're going to have to reschedule that.
Okay. Do we have a
So the next two
opening?
available options are May 5th, 2025, or May 19th.
See May 5th?
May 5th?
okay.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to move, move this application to May 5th with notice?
So moved. Second.
Daniel.
Perfect. Thank you.
Jim Henry, perfect. James Bonanno?
Yes.
Councilwoman Clayton?
Yes.
Jim Henry?
Yes.
Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Daniel Shinameo?
Yes.
Bob Zuckerman?
Yes.
Kathy McClellan?
Yes.
Vice Chair Goonan?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Kurzak.
Yes.
Cool.
Next item up is 711 Bangs Avenue.
Just want to make sure I get this one.
You want me to send you a confirmation email? Just
If you would.
yeah.
All right, 711 Bangs Ave, again, Andrew Karras on behalf of the applicant. We are ready to proceed tonight. If I may, this is a continuation of an application that we had presented previously. We are making certain revisions to plans based upon comments from the board. Just to remind the board what this application is about, property at issue is 711 Bangs Avenue, block 2506, lot 6, and it's in the CBD redevelopment area. It's a mixed-use district. Lot size is 3,667 square feet. The prior application we submitted on this matter had 6 residential units, the board may recall, with some parking beneath. We revised based upon comments of the board to eliminate that parking and add commercial space. We have approximately 2,050 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor, 6 residential apartments above. We have updated plans that we will be presenting from our engineer and also the architect, and that will include the elimination of that parking area, the addition of the commercial space, addition of the 3-foot setback in the rear with a door to that rear, enlarged garbage area within the commercial space, and also some revisions to the roof and lighting inside. With that being said, what I'll do is first call Daphne as my witness. She previously was accepted by the board as an expert on this application. If I may.
Yes. Please raise your right hand and swear you again. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. And again, Daphne Galvin, correct?
Yes.
Okay, why don't I get my staff sworn in? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your names for the record and your affiliation with the board.
Donna Miller, board planner.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks.
If I may?
Sure.
All right, what I'll do is just preliminarily. Daphne, you've made revisions to the plans on this matter, am I correct?
That's correct.
And the engineering plan that you made revisions to has a last revised date of February 7, 2025, am I correct?
That's correct.
What we're going to do, we're going to mark that, I believe we're on A6 for identification. Okay, is the 17. All right, we're going to mark that as A6 for identification. When it comes up on the screen, I'll have you identify and we'll go through the revisions to that. All right, so what we have up on the screen is the last revised plan for this project, am I correct?
That's correct.
And that is dated, as I indicated, February 7, 2025, correct?
Yes.
Take a look at what's been marked. A6 for identification, can you please go through the revisions to this?
Sure, just to be more specific about the sheet that's up on the screen right now, sheet number 4 of 9.
Could you speak into the mic? Thanks.
Sure. Regarding the plan that's up on the screen right now, that's sheet 4 of 9 of the site plans that were submitted. It's known as the grading, drainage, and utility plan. It is revised through February 7th of 2025, as Andy had indicated. Just to get everyone orientated again, north is generally up on the sheet. Bangs Avenue runs along the bottom of the sheet. Main Street would be over on the left, and then Bond is over on the right. The parcel has a street address of 711 Bangs Avenue, also known as Block 2506, Lot 6. It contains approximately 3,667 square feet and is located in the CBD Mixed Use District of the Central Business District Redevelopment Plan area. Bangs Avenue has a 75-foot right-of-way and allows for two-way traffic. There's also parking and sidewalk on both sides. And the surrounding uses are a mix of commercial and residential uses. The site itself was previously developed but is now vacant. There's some small areas of sidewalk. Most of the site is grass. And there's also the old driveway still exists out to Bangs Avenue. With respect to the plan revisions, most of the changes since the February hearing are architectural, and that'll be presented by Dan, the architect. The site plan related changes reflect the new internal layout of the ground floor, which includes the rear steps that were discussed at the last hearing. Those are internal steps to raise the grade so that when you walk out the back, you're up at the elevation of the rear yard. The rear yard is about 3 feet higher than the ground floor elevation of the building. In addition, in the front of the building, the ground floor front entrances have been set back a little bit further so that the doors, when you open the doors, they don't extend into the right-of-way. They don't obstruct the sidewalk. The building has also been widened about 2 inches so that it extends the entire width of the property, which is permitted. There's no setbacks required for the side yards. And that's to eliminate those 1-inch setbacks that were on the previous plans. There was 1 inch on either side. Those have been eliminated. Now the building goes property line to property line. The structure still complies with all the bulk standards of the zone. In the front of the building, there was a street tree previously proposed. That street tree is still proposed, and we've also added a bike rack to the west of the street tree. As requested in Mr. Avakian's letter, we will submit to the City Shade Tree Commission to obtain approval for the tree that's proposed. With respect to stormwater management, The project is still classified as a minor development as it proposes an increase in impervious surface of over 1,000 square feet, and we're still proposing the green roof system of 1,281 square feet to control the runoff. The green roof vegetation will be selected to avoid the need for irrigation. Access to the green roof for maintenance will be discussed by Dan, and as requested by Mr. Avakian, we'll provide an operations and maintenance manual for the green roof. Lastly, regarding other utilities, new services will be provided to the building. All of those services will be provided underground, and we'll submit copies of our requests for will serve letters to the utility companies. We will also contact the city engineer regarding sewer connection fees for the building. That's it.
That's all the questions I have.
I have a question. You just testified that the building is now 2 inches wider
Yes.
than it was originally. Originally, when the first application was submitted, there was an encroachment on the west side of the property by the adjacent property owner. How has that been handled?
Yeah.
We've reached out to the adjacent property owner. There have been communications going back and forth. That's ongoing with that property.
So it's not resolved yet?
There has not been a resolution, but that's between my client and dealing with their encroachment. We're trying to work through a resolution with them.
Okay. And at the north end of the building, there is a gravel area. What is the intended use of that gravel area?
It's really, there's no use proposed back there. It's really just an area it's 5 feet deep. It's left over based on the size of the building and the distance to the property line, and it'll just be fenced in and gravelled. So it's not intended for any use.
There was a pole in that area. What's the disposition of that?
Yeah, the pole, I believe, is right in the northeast corner of the property. That'll be coordinated with the utility company to see if there has to be any modifications to the pole. But it's offset from the back of the building.
Okay. Is there going to be any conflict between the wires on that pole and the new building?
That'll be coordinated with the utility company to their satisfaction.
Thank you.
Anything from our, anything else from board members regarding this? Any other questions? Any questions from our professionals? Are we going to go through the report, or would you like to go through that later?
Our report or
Your report.
Yeah, so our report, they've touched on pretty much everything in our report. Like Daphne testified to most of the revisions that were architectural in nature. So everything that we've talked about, they changed to get at grade, they have the interior door, like Daphne testified to, in the rear, they have gravel. I'll consider that pervious. I don't think it's going to create any type of issues back there. They do show a detail. Obviously, if the subgrade is in poor condition, it might hold a little bit of water, but I don't foresee that just because of the small nature of the area. That's pretty much the revisions that have been made.
All right, so that's to your satisfaction?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the public of this witness? Okay. Let's move on.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Zanoni, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear affirm the testimony about to give in this matter, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay, please state your name for the record, spell it, and my only question of you is your license still in good standing?
Yes, it is. My name, Daniel Zanetto, Zaneto.
Thank you.
Dan, you testified previously with regard to this project, am I correct?
Yes.
And looking up on the screen, there's a set of plans placed up there, am I correct?
Yes, these
Are
are
those the most recent plans as it relates to this particular?
correct.
why don't we get a last revision date of those plans, and then we're going to mark them.
The plans are dated February 7th, 2025.
That's the last revision date?
Yes.
All right, so what we're going to do is mark what's up on the board as A7 for identification, which is the last revised plan by Mode Architects. All right, taking a look at what's been marked as A7 for identification, what I want you to do is to go through those plans, identifying all the revisions that you've made from the last time we appeared before this board.
Okay, so starting with the ground floor plan, it was touched on by the engineer. At the rear of the space, we've added an internal stair and an access door out to the rear yard. At the front of the space, also on the west side here, we've added an area and noted for the utility meters.
Going to that front area, that's also set back, am I correct?
The storefront is set back and the utility meters are shown within that corridor.
And how far is that front of the building set back?
3 feet?
Okay, and that, when you open the doors, then that removes any encroachment into the right of way, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that on the left-hand side, that's a solid door, so you would not be able to see into that area where the utility meters are, am I correct?
Correct.
Go on.
At the rear of the space, we added a bike room. It's about 91 square feet, room for 6 wall-mounted bicycles. We've also enlarged the residential trash room. It's now about 7 feet by 15 feet. And we've added
The total square footage?
total square footage about 105 square feet. We've added a separate commercial trash room for the commercial tenant that's about 42 square feet. And just some additional changes, we've indicated where the mailboxes will be installed and a package shelf for deliveries. Also, the doors into the commercial tenant, the retail doors, have been aligned with the balcony doors above. That was a request that was talked about last time.
And the square footage for that commercial space?
About 2,050 square feet.
And that eliminates the parking that had previously been proposed, am I correct?
Correct.
Go on.
The upper floors are largely unchanged from what was presented last time. We do add some notes here on this interior bedroom, calling out for a ceiling fan and transfer grills for circulation within the unit. That's typical for each unit. On the 4th floor, which is the upper residential floor, we have a roof access ladder.
Sorry, is this a planning board meeting?
And that sums up the changes to the residential floors.
Can you tell us more about this roof access ladder? Tell us what, I mean, we knew that there was going to be a ladder before. Tell me what it is.
It's a roof hatch, so it's access from a fixed ladder attached to the wall. And it's just for maintenance only. It's not for any residents or anyone. It'll be locked. And it's just for maintenance access to the roof.
So the ladder is always there?
The ladder is there. It's fixed to the wall. It's a fixed steel ladder
Okay.
attached to the wall.
Okay, and then they can go through that. Okay.
Going back to that first floor, I just want to touch upon the bulkhead. There was a bulkhead that was added to the front facade, am I correct?
Correct.
And what's the height of that bulkhead?
We can go to the elevations to check that. I believe it's 19 inches, which is what's required in the zoning ordinance.
All right, go on.
Moving up to the rooftop, this is really just clarifications that were added here. Some dimensions indicating the setback of the front of the penthouse to the front of the building.
And what
which
is that setback?
20-foot setback. And also, this is where the roof hatch comes up from the floor below.
Indicated in that square area
Yeah,
to the right side?
to the right of the elevator overrun.
Okay.
And the green roof areas are indicated here. We added a line of sight study. That was a request from the last meeting as well, to illustrate what would be visible from the street. So viewed from the sidewalk across from the building, you can see a line of sight for a typical height. Looking up at the cornice of the front of the building, the area that's shaded here would be not visible from the street. So you can see that the front of the penthouse would be out of view from that line of sight.
You also have a calculation on the top of that page in terms of, or reflecting, the total square footage of that roof area, am I correct? That penthouse area?
Right, so this indicates a total square footage for the roof area of 3,484 square feet. And the allowable penthouse would be 20%, which would be 699 square feet. And the total of our penthouses is 431 square feet, so we're within.
You're within the requirements of the CD redevelopment plan, am I correct?
Correct.
Go ahead.
This revised elevation just was, some notes were clarified for materials. There's a question about the color of the metal trim. I have a physical sample here.
What I'll do is I'll circulate this.
And we also have a physical sample of the brick material.
What I want to do, I just want to indicate in the manufacturers if there's a color. Here's a Leucobond Plus and
The color is tricorn black.
tricorn black.
And what will that be?
Where does that go?
Yeah, where's this going?
That's the metal trim, which is at the face of the balcony, the storefront areas here, the flat panels. Doors and storefront system would be to match. It's not all going to be the same manufacturer. That's the metal panel manufacturer, but the storefront would be to match that color. The windows as well. The windows are black clad windows.
So essentially, the intent was for the front doors of retail, that center bar, to be at the center of the 3 doors on each floor. Is that accurate?
Yes, that was a request that we talked about at the last meeting, aligning the storefront doors with the glazing above.
Okay. So
That's all been
that will be
reconfigured.
centered, it's roughly there, yes. I'm just saying that, but visually that could be for anybody to, a couple inches here or there. But I just want to make sure that we're talking about that center line is going straight up into the middle of those 3 panes.
Correct, not the building, but the
No,
balcony.
correct, the balcony. The balcony. Okay.
Yes, that's absolutely the intent. If it's not appearing that way, that was.
No, it's roughly there, yes. Yes. Okay.
The brick material, I have a physical sample here. This is a thin brick product, meaning it's real clay brick. It's just manufactured in thin pieces, it's adhered to the wall as opposed to a full brick.
And that will be the color?
That will be the color.
Okay.
It's A9 is the Hampshire color.
Did they get mortgage?
They do get mortared.
So what are you putting, what color mortar, put it in dark?
I think it would likely be a gray mortar.
And what,
Are you gonna get to the lights? Is that-
Yeah. Lights and signage.
Sure. Signage areas, we've indicated the square foot of the proposed signage areas, and they all, as I understand, comply with the square footage requirements in the ordinance.
And where's the signage going on the building?
We have one sign band above the tenant space, and then we have one address sign above the lobby doors for the residents.
I'm sorry, Dan, can I just back up one moment, the metal sample that's going around?
yes,
So that's everything in this elevation that is the equivalent, that color will represent the
Yeah,
window sashes, the balcony facings, what about the railings?
railings as well, yeah.
Okay.
Everything,
Everything
everything
is
painted
sort of
metal,
like-
so the
That's
railings, the windows, the cladding on the facade here, the storefront framing, the doors.
Okay. There were some other samples in that envelope, so.
Oh, yeah, those were,
and will that also be what's used on the back of the building?
I don't think you're doing stucco, right?
the back and sides are stucco,
Right,
a
and
gray
is
stucco.
that,
But the materials, like the metal trim, and the railings, and the windows, those would all match.
so everything throughout the whole building will be the same like that?
Right.
And you have a gray stucco in the back of this?
Correct.
And that's real stucco, right? Not acrylic stucco?
Cement stucco,
That's stucco.
right.
What, gray, light gray, dark gray, what is it?
A light gray. I think what we would intend is to match kind of what was at the adjacent property to the right. We also added a glazing calculation. So the total glazed area comes out to about 65% of the total facade. I think we're a little bit shy of what's required, but that's mainly due to the adding of the bulkhead at the bottom.
So 70% is required, so a design waiver is thus needed for that 5%, am I correct?
Correct.
All right. You've added also to the measurements on the building, the dimensions for the balconies, am I correct?
Balcony dimensions and the penthouse dimensions have been added to the plans, correct?
Go on.
Is the solid door at the west was glazed, would that then be closer to the 70%?
There was some discussion about the door on the west. The intent is for that really to be egress only, emergency egress only, and we didn't want to bring attention to that door, or add confusion, having people trying to get into the building from that door. So the intent is to have that kind of blend in with the facade and not make that a glazed door.
And for a building like this, that's normal, and you find that throughout the downtown, am I correct?
Correct.
Go on.
We've added some notes just to indicate that the lighting at the balcony here would be full cutoff lighting. I do have a cut sheet that I can show if that's needed.
I assume they're gonna be the same dark metal like you do in.
It would also be a black, yeah.
And why don't we identify that as A10, and that's the specs for the lights on the balcony.
The balcony.
The balcony or the penthouse?
The penthouse, yeah, I'm sorry, penthouse.
And the temperature of those lights?
We would pick the temperature to comply with the order. I believe it's 2700 K.
Correct, so it would not exceed that, am I correct?
No, we'd select the correct color temperature.
Okay. What other lighting is going to be on the building in addition to that penthouse lighting?
This is the same accent light that was presented at the last meeting. This is at the ground floor. We just have these two wall sconces at the doorways.
And we're going to make that A11, those wall sconces on the ground floor.
Where will those be located?
When we go to the front of the side. There are two that
Two
are
kind of lantern style lights here and then also here.
adjacent to each door, am I correct?
Correct.
Are there any lights on that back metal door that has been shown on the back of the building?
Just going to ask that.
The back door, I don't know if we show it on the plan. It will have just an emergency light overhead.
But there needs to be a light, so we need to have a light added to that.
Okay, that would be, we could use the same light as the same as the penthouse light.
And the balconies have lights built into the ceiling?
Balconies have downlights. You have that as well. And the cut sheet here shows a white fixture, but this would be black. Comes in black as well.
And that'll be A12, and those are,
These are just wet location downlights. Again, we can pick the
It's a recessed fixture.
recessed fixture inside the bottom of the balcony framing, inside the soffit underneath the balcony. And again, we can pick the 2700K color temperature.
Now, when you see them, of course, you see the light on the balcony from the street, but is like, when you're looking at the balcony, is there a lit, like is the ceiling?
You'd be looking up, you could see the lens of the fixture, but they're not surface mounted, they are recessed lights.
what else? The mechanicals, I think you indicated on the roof, those are in the location, they won't be visible to anybody on the street, am I correct?
Correct, they're set back, they're located between the two penthouses, so they would not be visible from the street.
Any other revisions other than what you've already testified to?
No, I think we summed up all of the changes.
And do you have renderings of the building?
I do have a rendering to share.
Dennis, what's on the green roof? The plantings in the green roof area?
Yeah, maybe
It's
that.
a prefabricated strata, so it comes in, it's the soils, the strata, and the vegetation.
Oh, it's not grass, right?
It's not grass, it's like
low grass.
No, it's not grass.
It's plantings.
Yes, but things that come.
How are the balcony lights controlled? Are they controlled by the?
By the tenant. Yeah, so each unit has kind of the front unit here would have control of the light.
Interior inspection.
Correct.
All right. I'm going to mark this as A12. These are renderings of the proposed building, am I correct?
Correct.
A13. Oh, I'm sorry, A13. A13 are the renderings of the building.
Do we have copies of these or no?
No, this is
Okay.
just kind of.
Just got
this.
Okay.
Anything else?
That inset brick area will be herringbone, right? I can't tell.
Yes.
Okay.
That is more accurately illustrated on the elevation. The herringbone's not be able to show that correctly on that rendering.
And I think by his testimony, we pretty much covered everything in the reports also that was identified.
Can you just go through just very quickly? I know that we had talked about the roof deck and that you have the green roof around it. What prevents people, like what's around that so that if the person is on their roof deck, what do they see or don't see? Like, is there like some sort of a fencing, some sort of
The roof deck, right, we have a kind of a platform roof deck here.
Okay.
This will have a railing around it.
Okay.
So that the resident's not able to kind of come out onto that green roof.
Okay.
Discouraged from doing that.
And then the rest of it is inside. The other part of it is inside.
That's an interior.
So they have literally a deck that they could just walk out onto. And how high is the fencing? So that they can't get onto the
It's a
green roof?
regular railing height, 3'6" from
About
the
3'6"?
floor of the roof deck.
And, okay.
Consistent with what we find on 700 Bangs, 316.
And that's the same at the rear penthouse that also has a railing all the way around the roof deck.
Okay. I have one other question. I know we had spoken about the windowless bedrooms. Can you talk to me about, because you'd mentioned that there's fans and grills, and can you tell me about that?
Right, so we would do what's required to meet the code, and we're allowed to use natural ventilation within the dwelling unit. So the windows within the unit are operable, and you're allowed to have adjoining rooms that can share the operable natural ventilation if there's a transfer grill and openings of a certain size. So we would have the door opening plus the transfer grill, and we're also adding a ceiling fan to help with circulation, and that would meet the code.
So can you tell me what this, I don't know what a transfer grill is. What is a transfer grill?
It's an opening above the door.
All right, so if, okay, so basically it's just a.
Without the glass.
No old fashioned.
Yeah, it's just open and that's it. So if you don't have the fan on and if there's no air on in the whole place,
Serve the whole unit.
you got nothing.
I mean, it's not mechanical ventilation, it's just.
Right, it's not mechanical, none of this is
Natural
mechanical.
ventilation. There's air conditioning, but there's not mechanical fresh air
Right,
provided.
but if the air conditioner's not on, there's nothing.
No,
And if the fan is not on, if the
There would be a mini split system within the unit, and you would have a mini split right in the bedroom, which would provide for a fan. So you'd have circulation.
so that's the fan, not a ceiling fan, it's a wall unit? Is that what we're saying?
We're gonna have a wall unit in there.
an air conditioning unit and also a ceiling fan for circulation.
Okay, so we need to see that on these drawings.
Usually you have it on mechanical, on the construction drawings is where you're gonna find your mechanicals.
Right.
That would be in there.
So a split unit
But
in that room is going to provide heating and cooling to that room.
That is correct, and it has a fan, a separate fan.
Okay. All right, so when you see those,
So does it have a source?
Hanging on
Yeah.
the wall.
hanging on the wall, yeah.
It seems like we're doing kind of overkill at the moment.
Mhm.
So we have the grill, which is basically just a
An opening.
ventilation grill, right? And then also a mini split unit in the bedroom?
The mini split is only providing heating and cooling. We're talking ventilation, we're talking like
Okay, so it's not-
fresh
But
air.
Fresh air
they also
is
have a
split.
fan setting on there.
Right, so it's movement of air.
The air that's in the space.
Mhm.
Okay.
And every windowless bedroom gets one of these.
Correct.
Okay.
You'd have the mini split condenser that sits on the roof, and then you would have the, I don't know what you call them, the cassette units that go into the different rooms. The cassette unit.
And that, and the controls are fully in that room.
Yeah, usually they're on a remote.
Right, on a remote that somebody can just use and do that. Okay. Okay.
So, just to eliminate confusion, the heating and cooling unit in the windowless bedroom, plus a ceiling fan in the windowless bedroom.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And the transfer grill.
So
And
that's
the transfer
between
grill, correct.
the bedroom and
And the
some
other,
other place.
and the other rooms. Yeah.
Is that going to be an actual grill, or is it just going to be a void?
It's an opening.
So there's nothing in the opening it's going to be? Okay.
It's an opening.
So you gotta be quiet in that room.
It's an apartment.
And on which drawings would we see how big this opening is?
Probably construction.
The construction
I won't see it anywhere?
drawings, we haven't detailed that yet.
Is that like, you know,
Final
you gotta have
construction.
it by a certain size, depending on the size of the room?
Right, so the ventilation requirements are based on the square footage of the area served, and there's a percentage of the area served that you have to provide as operable openings, so that would be your doors and
So it
windows.
says the opening has to be X size. the
Right.
window size.
All right, does anybody, any other planning board member have any questions?
Yeah, again, I do. We have a sample here of the brick that you're going to use on the exterior. And I'm only looking at the stuff you have provided, but it does not look like it's the same color as the color renderings that you have provided. It looks to be considerably darker, and it looks to be considerably darker than the building to the east. Am I correct, or am I making a wrong assumption?
I mean, I think we try to do our best to match renderings and colored elevations to match the actual materials, but the material sample that you have in front of you best represents the color.
And how does that compare to the building to the east?
The building to the east, I think that it's complementary. We don't want to try to match it exactly. We're not trying to look like a continuation of that building, but we feel it is a complementary brick color.
And I see on sheet A200, the area around the balcony, the brick area around the balcony is considerably darker. Is that because of shadows, or is it you are using two different colored brick?
That's a shadow. That's you see the recessed area of the balcony, and that's a shadow from the actual balcony.
So it's the same brick?
Same brick.
And what is the base material that this brick is going to be attached to?
The base material is a cement board, and then you have an adhered. It's a modified. The name is escaping me right now, but it's made just for this type of application of adhered stone and brick.
Is there a rain screen?
No, it's not a rain screen.
Any other questions from the planning board members? No? Any other questions from the professionals? Are you satisfied with the results, the answers to your reports?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Before we move on, let me just ask one more question. Are there any questions of this witness from the public? No questions from the public. I do have a question, just in general. It's like, can we go over what the waivers are and the variances or any whatever what we're looking to approve here?
Sure.
You don't mind?
I don't believe there are any variances.
Are there any waivers? Anything?
There are some design exceptions
Okay.
related to the design guidelines.
Okay, and where were we finding those?
Page 3 on my report.
Okay, page 3. Okay, go ahead.
We are calling out relationship to surroundings for building height, and that's because there's vast discrepancy in height on that block front. Remember, the Windsor building is only 2 stories. The building to the right is much taller, but the predominant height on the block is only 2 stories. Sliding glass doors are not permitted because of the change to add bulkhead, which is a requirement, to the storefront, and not creating more glass area on the left side of the storefront. They're just below the minimum threshold for storefront glass, needing to be at least 70%, calculated around 65, 67. Building colors technically is a deviation from the EDC design guidelines. It's old fashioned, it looks at white trim and it wants that type of color palette. So they're still giving us red brick, so kind of meeting in the middle, but technically not conforming. And then we have the parking, which, Andy, I don't know if you want to bring that up again?
Yeah.
There's a discrepancy about, they are not providing any on-site parking, obviously, which was before they were providing parking but needed a variance for not providing enough ground floor commercial space. They've eliminated the on-site parking in favor of commercial space to eliminate that variance. And even in that situation, they weren't giving us the total number of required parking spaces. So our copy of the CBD plan has a parking requirement that seems to be in question. And that's kind of where we left off at the last time we talked about parking.
Yeah, and it's basically, it relates, if I'm correct, to the non-residential.
Non-residential,
Yeah, the commercial.
exactly.
When you look at the parking requirements, the first section in the CBD mixed use, when it talks about non-residential, indicates in there, none for floor area in existing structures and for floor area structures that existed at the time of the adoption of the CBD redevelopment plan, or 10,000 square feet of non-residential construction. There's a second bullet point that says new non-residential footprint construction shall require 2 spaces per 1,000 square feet of additional floor space. The problem that you have is twofold. The amendments that you had in 2009 to the CBD mixed use do not include that second bullet point. Your board planner was under the impression as part of the 2018 revisions, but that was never adopted, those revisions. I couldn't find anything online. I don't see anything to indicate. I actually think what that second bullet point provides for is what had originally been the redevelopment plan, and then what was eliminated when that first bullet point was enacted. But I can't find that language subsequent to 2009 when that first bullet point was enacted. Secondly, there is a tax assessment that I saw that has both a building and the land in 2005. So there had been a building that existed on this site in 2005 that was torn down. Obviously, if you walk the site, you can see, some remnants of the footprint of the building that had been there. The redevelopment plan was enacted, I believe, in 2002. Consequently, you had a building that had existed there subsequent to 2002. I would assert under that bullet point, irrespective of whether or not that second paragraph, second bullet point is applicable under the first one, since there was an existing structure that had been there subsequent to the enactment of the redevelopment plan, that my client is not responsible for providing any commercial parking on this site.
But we're not talking about the building that was there in 2005.
No, but when you have to read the language of that.
But the first way you were reading it, I thought like the first paragraph was saying, if you wanted 10,000 square feet, you didn't need the parking.
It actually says or, it's either or. So, or 10,000 square feet, or there had been an existing structure there.
So why doesn't that get you? Is it 10,000 square feet of the non-residential space or of the total?
No, non-residential. Only speaks about non-residential.
Well, then you get out under that, don't you?
But then you have that second bullet point that confuses things, to say the least.
Well, if it's inconsistent, maybe it's, if you're over 10,000 feet, that's what. I don't know where going back to a building that doesn't exist. That meant like you don't have parking requirement for that building that existed in 2005, but it still doesn't exist, but it seems like under 10,000 square feet, you're reading, you don't need it.
What's been the position of the city so far to date with these projects?
For the commercial projects in the CB mixed use, we have not had to provide any parking in the commercial building.
We haven't had any new footprint construction except for,
700 bangs across the street, we did not have to provide commercial for that. That was ground up construction.
okay, that was before me. Recently, though, it did come up with 614 Cookman. Because there was an increase of.
But that's different though, that's in your Cookman Ave retail court, that's not your CB.
Agreed. I'm just saying, as far
Different
as
standard.
the type of development. We haven't had, I mean, yeah, I think you're right. Is 700 the only new
That was ground up,
ground up?
yeah. But
Everything else has
614
pretty much
Cookman,
been
though.
under the premise of, there was existing ground floor area, and that's where everybody's, that's what we're accustomed to.
527 Banks was not considered a new building.
There was a building there.
There was
There was a building.
Building department said we had to take it down.
So when we talked about this last month, we decided that we were not the right people to decide this, and we said we just wanted a condition that said contribution for any parking spaces that are required under the CBD redevelopment plan, either 9 or 14. But we said it was up to.
Well, that's, I don't feel that that's something that we can decide.
Exactly. Right.
Correct.
So our condition will just be whatever's
So
required.
it's still a
you'll
design
contribute.
exception, we just don't know to
Right.
what extent.
Right. And that's fine, and we could put that into the requirements and.
And in terms of the design exception for the building height, I mean, you're all over the place. 700 bangs is consistent with the height here. You have a building right next door, then it drops down, so you're kind of all over the place. with building height. So it's a matter of interpretation whether or not exception is required.
Any other questions? Actually, I already went through the questions. Does anybody have any comments that they would like, any planning board members have any comments that they would like to make?
I think it looks like a nice building.
I have to agree with you, Dan. I think that it looks like a really nice building. I really do. I think it'll be a nice addition to that street.
Public comment?
Any other comments from our professionals? No? All right, motion to open to public comment?
So moved. Second?
Anyone?
Aye.
Motion closed.
Ayes have it.
Second.
There's no one in the public coming
Nope,
forward?
nope, we already have a motion to close.
We have a comment.
Second.
Oh, if you could just
Please do.
go up.
Come to the microphone.
Go to the microphone. There, okay.
You said it, you gotta do it.
Step up.
I don't know.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah,
Oh, yes. Yes.
yes.
Okay. Please state your name for the record and spell it, and give us your address, please.
Okay, it's Marianne Bork, B-O-R-K-E. My address is 18 Candidate Court in Chittenden Falls, New Jersey, 07753. I'm just here because it's a part of my assignment for a class I'm taking at Rutgers called Fundamentals of Environmental Planning.
Okay.
This isn't a comment about this project, although it's very insightful to learn about what's being developed in Asbury. I come here all the time. I was just curious if Asbury offers any, or Ocean Grove offers any types of incentives for buildings if they repurpose their materials. I know in Austin, Texas, they'll do tax cuts, so you can save money, of course. If you repurpose tires and turn that into planters, or use solar panels, they'll give you tax incentives for doing that. So I'm just curious if Asbury does, or if there's a chance Asbury could down the road if they don't now.
Well, actually, that unfortunately is not a relevant question to the application, because what you're really commenting on is the application. However, I'm sure if you go to talk to that young lady walking that way and towards you, give her a call, she'll be able to give you some information.
All right.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're doing. I understand. Thank you.
All right, motion to close. For public comment.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, Marie. Okay.
All right, do you have anything on that, on the list besides the?
Yeah, there's a lot that's been omitted after tonight.
Okay.
The usual CBD conditions, subject to any outstanding items in the reports. The parking for the commercial space will be as is required.
By who?
So,
As is required by who?
by the plan.
The planner or the
If we don't
city?
know the requirement, then you can't really walk out of here without knowing the requirement, can we? No, because the law requires, if there's no parking required, that's one thing.
It's a question of whether or not we're required to pay into the fund.
Right.
If there's a dispute, I don't think the planning board makes that
No,
interpretation.
I'd have to send you over to the zoning board,
Exactly.
and I don't want to do that. I want to see,
I'd prefer not to go there if everybody was to agree that for the commercial, then there's no obligation.
I don't know the answer to that.
But wouldn't the city attorney have to be involved in that?
Redevelopment council.
Speak with them.
Maybe you can meet with the city attorney and figure it out.
All right.
I'd rather have the city attorney figure it out than planning or zoning.
Yeah, or redevelopment council, either one. More than likely, you have a specific redevelopment council for CBD? Then that's who it should be. Because they're the ones that deal with the plan for the most part. Okay, so this resolution is gonna get done for 45 days, so please meet with them and let me know. And whatever the requirement's gonna turn out to be per your discussions with redevelopment council, I'll inform the board and we'll go from there in terms of the contribution, if any. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
We'll agree to that? Okay.
But the contribution for the 9, for the residential units is certain, correct?
Residential unit, we're not providing any parking.
So it's a financial contribution. Right, okay, so let me just make sure.
It's the commercial, I think there is in the report 5 commercial, 15,000 space there, 75,000 residential.
I know I have it. Okay, I have that. We set up a construction schedule meeting with James regarding the sidewalk closures and all that as per every application that's coming through. He needs approval for that. Submission to the Shade Tree Commission for the street tree planting.
Great.
Okay. Now, the bike rack on the street, I said it was gonna be worked out with James, but I understand that's not been resolved, or it hasn't? That still goes to James? Okay, so I still have that. We've covered the window, the bedroom, air and light. Residential trash room has been enlarged. Commercial trash room has been taken care of. Exterior light fixtures on the front of the building will not exceed 2,700. Penthouse, penthouse is downward lighting, correct? Balcony lights.
Recessed. Won't exceed 2,700 kelvin.
Right, I have that as well. The ladder, ship's ladder going up to the roof has been addressed. Bike rack inside the interior has been taken care of. Rear access door and lighting has been taken care of. They have
No, not the lighting. We have.
Yeah, it's
We're gonna add the lighting.
Yeah,
We're just
the
gonna
rear
add the
door has
lighting.
to have a safety light per code.
Yep.
Right, I have that. The operations manual and
That'll be,
scheduling
that'll be
with,
filed.
with Sam, as per Sam. And, let's see. We've already added in the front bulkhead, the facade, the 19-inch facade. Color samples have been taken care of. Yeah, that's what I got. And
Right.
I only have a couple left because a lot of the stuff's been checked off.
The only other thing I had was resolution of encroachment issues.
That's not for us to
Not for
decide.
us? Got it.
That's between the two property owners.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack, but shouldn't there be a requirement that that be resolved
No.
prior to issuance? So
Nope. He has a right to build. If he has a civil matter, he and the next door neighbor will either resolve it or they'll go to court. But it doesn't, and if they're encroaching on the property, I could care less.
Yeah, but shouldn't that be resolved prior to the,
No, no, that's not relevant to the board's decision. That's between the two property owners. If he starts to build and the next door property owner doesn't like it, then if they litigate, they litigate. Doesn't alter what we do in any way, shape, or form.
We only approved what he could go to.
Yes, yeah, we just look at the property that his client owns, do the project. If there's a problem with an encroachment by a next door neighbor, that's between the parties.
All right, anything else? All right, can I get a motion to approve with the stipulations that we just mentioned?
So moved.
Second.
James Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Clayton,
Yes.
Jim Henry,
yes?
Mayor Moore,
Yes.
Daniel Shinameo,
Yes.
Bob Zuckerman,
Yes.
Kathy McClellan,
Yes.
Vice Chair Goonan,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak.
Yes.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
Motion to
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Now, the
Anyone?
only problem is, that's where I take.
Oh, so moved.
Okay, all in favor?
That's
Aye.
why I
None
take it for
opposed?
a walk in the middle of the night.
Night. Thank you.
We gotta go back.